Hello dear students, in continuation to the lecture series on the subject botany, today our topic is taxonomy and diversity of Brassicaceae. Dear students, we all know that the planet Earth supports a rich diversity of living organisms, be that animals, plants or microbes. The plants being producers are important because they provide us precious economic goods and ecological services. The different kinds of plants that inhabit our planet Earth have been classified into the taxonomic categories called families. Of these various families, Brassicaceae, which is the topic for today's lecture, is an important family. In this lecture, we will be dealing with the following aspects of the family Brassicaceae. Number 1, taxonomy. Number 2, systematic position. Number 3, phylogeny. 4th, diversity. And the last and 5th, economic importance of the family Brassicaceae. So, starting with this taxonomy. The Brassicaceae is commonly known as mustard family, or sometimes we call it as crucifer family. The term crucifer, it means cross form. This cross form is basically in relation to the cross-shaped corolla that is existing in the flowers of this family. The family Brassicaceae was first of all established as a formal taxonomic category under the name Cruciferae by A.L. de Gisu. Later on, this Cruciferae name was also retained, but at the same time, Brassicaceae name was given to this family Cruciferae. Why? Because it was necessitated due to the rule of ICBN. ICBN stands for International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. The rule is called as typification. But at the same time, the name Cruciferae was also retained. In taxonomy, we call this retention of the name as nomen conservandum. Why this was retained? Because the name Cruciferae was in wide usage. The family members of this Brassicaceae family, they are distinctive. They show some unique characters which are not existing in other types of plants. These characters are that they are mostly herbs. Very rarely they can be shrubs. They contain a type of phytochemical what we call as glucosinolates, or commonly known as mustard oils. Here the flower have a perianth, that is the non-reproductive part of the flower. The perianth is here cruciate. Cruciate means cross-shaped. And the petals are the individual parts of the corolla. They are here clad. The androecium in this family is tetradynamous, a unique characteristic feature of the family Brassicaceae. Then gynoecium, it has a superior bicarpellary syncarpous ovary. And this ovary shows an axile or parietal placentation. Here, the fruit is unique in this flower in the sense it's called as silicua or silicule. This fruit is basically a two-valved dehiscent fruit with a partition called as rhipium. Now we will discuss its various taxonomic features, morphological features one by one, starting with its habit, how it looks like. The various plants that belong to the family Brassicaceae, they can be either annual, they can be biennial or can be perennial herbs. But very rarely, some of the members, they are shrubs, as exemplified by a genus called as Forsythia. The perennial herbs in the family, they are often associated with rhizomes, stolons or runners. The root here, because this family belongs to the dicots, the root system is called as taproot system. The stem is hairy, but it's associated with a watery sap. The hairs, they are diverse in their shape. They can be simple to branched. When they are branched, they can assume the shapes like satellite. Satellite means the star-shaped, or peltate. The leaves in the members of the family Brassicaceae, they are alternatively arranged, but that alternate arrangement is in a spiral fashion. But sometimes quite often we see the leaves, they form a basal rosette at underground part. The leaves are without a stipule here, that's why it is exstipulate. The leaves are simple. Very rarely they can be palmately or pinnately compound. When simple, this leaf blade is often dissected. That means its margins, they are dissected, and the dissection can sometimes take the shape of lobes. Rarely we see margins, they show an entire shape, but usually they are serrate in their margins. The veniation, that is the veins in the leaf surface, they can assume the shape of palmate or pinnate. Now coming to the reproductive part of the flower, starting with inflorescence. The inflorescence can be terminal or it can be axillary, but in both the cases it is raceme. Inflorescence can be rarely composed of a single solitary flower, but most often a characteristic feature of this family is the racemes, they often form a flat-topped corymbs. The flower, individual flower is here pedicellate, that means they are with stalks. They are abracteate, but rarely they can be bracteate, as we have an example of Nasturtium of snail where we have the brackets associated with the flower, but mostly they are without brackets. Again, they are abracteolate. Now, the flowers, they are mostly bisexual and usually they are actinomorphic. Very rarely there can be instances of flowers having a zygomorphic symmetry. The flowers are hypogynous or very rarely perigynous. The flower receptacle, that is the stalk of the flower, it can sometimes prolong and form an elongate or shortened structure called as gynophore. Now the individual parts of the flower one by one, starting from calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. First of all, the calyx. Calyx here is comprised of 4 sepals. That means the flower is tetramerous. Aposepals, all these sepals, they are free. They are arranged in 2 whorls in a 2+2 arrangement. The outer sepal whorl, that is decussate and is often hairy at its base. The sepals of the lateral pair, they sometimes are succate at base. Succate means they have a pouch-like structure. They can be green or slightly petaloid. Now the corolla is again comprised of 4 petals. It's apopetalous, that means free petals. A characteristic feature, it is cruciform, that means arranged in a cross shape. These petals, they are often with an elongate claw at its base and a spreading limb. Sometimes in some of the species we see these petals are absent, as we see in the case of Coronopus. Now the androecium, that is the male part of the flower. Androecium in the case of Brassicaceae, we often see it's comprised of 6 stamens. But rarely we also see in some cases 2 stamens in the case of Coronopus, 4 stamens in the case of Codamine, and even 16 stamens in the case of Megacarpia. These stamens, they are apostemonous, they are biseriate, and as already mentioned, they are arranged in a tetradynamous fashion. What this tetradynamous arrangement means, here in this case of Brassicaceae, we have the 2 outer shorter stamens and the inner 4 longer stamens. That's why it's called as 2+4 arrangement. The plements, they are elongate to short, or sometimes they can be free or fused. The anthers at the top of these stamens, they are basifixed. They are introse and the dehiscence is longitudinal. The anthers are also tetrasporangiate. The pollen grains in the case of Brassicaceae, they are tricolporate or tricolpate. Again, a characteristic feature of Brassicaceae here is the nectaries. They are often present near the base of the stamens. Now, the female part of the flower, that is gynoecium, is comprised of carpels. These carpels usually are in 2 number, but rarely we see in some cases, but this is a very rare instance, we see 3 carpels or 4 carpels also present. The gynoecium is syncarpous, that means all these carpels, they are fused together. The ovary is here superior, it is unilocular, but a unique thing about this Brassicaceae ovary is that although it is a unilocular, but it seems a bilocular. How? Because there we have a pollen septum. What this pollen septum is? It's basically a thin partition which lacks vascular tissue. This pollen septum, it is surrounded by a thick placental rim called as rhipium. In this ovary, the ovules are either one or many. The ovules are anatropous or campylotropous. Now, the second part of the gynoecium, that is the style, it is present either singly or sometimes it can be even absent. The stigma at the top of the corpus are in capitate shape, but very often we see it's a bilobed stigma. The placentation here in the case of Brassicaceae, it is axile parietal. What is this type of placentation? Here, each corpel has 2 rows of ovules, and where they are attached to the placenta. The nectaries here are very discrete, or they can be in the form of a ring, which are around stamens or corpels. Now, the fruit. Fruit is here either silicua or silicule. What is the difference between silicue and silicule? In the case of silicue, it is longer than broad, but in the case of silicule, it is opposite. It is broader than it is long. In both the cases of silicue or silicule, the 2 halves of the fruit, they separate away from a persistent partition. As already mentioned, it is called as rhipium, that is present at the rim of the placenta, and to this rim are attached the seeds. In the case of Raphanus, we see another form of a fruit, what is called as lumentum. Inside the fruit, we have the seeds, but these seeds, they lack endosperm. That's why we call the seeds here as ex-albuminous. Occasionally, these seeds are arillate. Inside the seeds, we have the embryo. A characteristic feature of Brassicaceae is these embryos are either curved or folded. Now, something about the pollination system, modes of pollination in Brassicaceae. The flowers of Brassicaceae, they are frequently white in their color, or they can be yellow or pale to deep purple. That's why they are often pollinated by insects like bees, flies, butterflies, moths, beetles, for which the main attraction is the nectar in the flowers. In some tropical species, pollination also occurs by birds or bats. In most cases, the valves of the silicua, that the silicua is the fruit in the Brassicaceae, it falls away, thus exposing the seeds to the action of either wind or dispersal by rain wash. In some other cases, the small seeds, as we see in cardamine, they are explosively released from the silicues. In Raphanus, that is another genera in the family Brassicaceae, the corky fruits, they break transversely into one-seeded segments, which are then scattered either by wind or by water. Here in the case of Brassicaceae, we also see the seeds, they have adaptations. These adaptations are like wings, bladders, or the seeds can be dusty. All these adaptations, they facilitate dispersal of the seeds by wind. In some cases, we have the fruits, they are fleshy one. That adaptation mainly aids in its dispersal by either mammals or by birds. Now, the second part of the lecture, that is systematic position of the family Brassicaceae. We will just highlight few prominent classification systems. Bentham and Hooker, the 2 British botanists, they classified the family Brassicaceae under Dicotyledons and the subclass Polypetalae and the series Thalamiflorae. Then an American taxonomist, Cronquist, he classified this family Brassicaceae under division Magnoliophyta, class Magnoliopsida, subclass Delinidae, order Caparales. This was followed by Takhtajan, a Russian taxonomist, who classified this Brassicaceae family same as Conquest under the division Magnoliophyta, class Magnoliopsida, subclass Delinidae, but he included one more superorder called as Violani and the order Kappa Rales. Dahlgren, a Danish botanist, classified this family under the class. He doesn't recognize the division. He straight away ranked it at the rank of class Liliopsida, subclass Magnolidae, superorder Violini, and the order Kappa Rales. Robert Thorne, very recently in the year 2003, he classified it under the class Angiospermae, subclass Rosidae, superorder Brassicaceae, and the order Brassicales. Angiosperm phylogeny group, a collaborative group of taxonomists who have classified a rankless classification. They associate this family Brassicaceae with eudicots. Eu here means the true dicots, and the subclade Eurozides second, and the order Brassicales. Now the third part of the lecture, that is phylogeny. The family Brassicaceae is considered to be monophyletic. It has a monophyletic origin. The basis for this assumption is that all the members of the Brassicaceae have elongate gynophores, exerted stamens, glycosinolates, the phytochemical that we have in the case of Brassicaceae. In the case of their endoplasmic reticulum, they have their cisternae, they are dilated ones. And lastly, the molecular data based on the gene RBCL. RBCL is the larger subunit of rubisco protein. Brassicaceae is the largest family of the order Brassicales. In addition to Brassicaceae, the order includes 15 more families. The presence of phytochemical glycosinolate and also the myrosin cells is considered to be synapomorphic for the order Brassicales. The phylogenetic relationship within the order have been investigated by the cladistic analysis, both by taking into account the morphological characters as well as molecular characters. The family Brassicaceae, it forms a distinct subclade. In addition to the rest of the 15 families, this family Brassicaceae, it forms a distinct subclade based on following characters like tetramerous flower, seeds with curved or folded embryos, lack of endosperm, vessels with vastured pits, and the cisternae of the endoplasmic reticulum which are vacuolar. Both morphological and molecular data suggest that the subfamily within this family Brassicaceae, that is called as Caparoideae, represented by Caparis, it forms a basal but a paraphyletic complex within the family Brassicaceae. On the other hand, we have two more subfamilies, namely Chilimoideae, represented by Chilium, and the common Brassicoideae, which also form a monophyletic group. The basis for this monophyly is the synapomorphies. Like both these subfamilies, they have a herbaceous habit, and also in their fruit they have a false septum called rhaplum, and more recently on the basis of molecular DNA sequence data. The monophyly of Chilimoideae is supported by they have palmately compound leaves and bilaterally symmetrical flowers. On the other hand, the monophyly of the subfamily Brassicoideae is indicated by the presence of a false septum called rhaplum in their ovary, and also one more character, that is the folded embryos. The Brassicoideae, the most common subfamily within the family Brassicaceae, it differs from the Chilimoideae in it being strongly having reticulate and colpate pollen grains. Most of the Brassicoideae, they have short gynophores and tetradynamous stamens. These tetradynamous stamens have short filaments. The Brassicoideae, which is the common subfamily within the family Brassicaceae, it is predominant in temperate regions. On the other hand, the rest of the two subfamilies, Chilimoideae and Caparoideae, they are common in tropical regions. The genera of Brassicoideae are very difficult to distinguish, and that's why they have been delimited into different tribes. This tribal delimitation is mainly based on characters like fruit morphology, calyx astuation, flower color, stigma form, number of seeds per locule, type of embryo folding, and the endowment. Now the fourth part of the lecture, that is the diversity that is existing in the family Brassicaceae. At present, the family is represented world over by about 350 genera. These 350 genera, they include more than 4,000 species. Some of the species-rich genera in this family are Draba, having a species richness of about 350 species all over the world. This is followed by Erysimum by 180 species. Then Cardamine and Lepidium, two different genera. Each of these genera, they have 170 species each. Then Elysum having 150 species, followed by Cecembrium having about 90 species throughout the world. Then followed by Arabis, Thalaspi, Rhodipa, Hesperus and Heliophila, each of these having 70 species each. And lastly, the type genus Brassica having 50 species all over the world. Members of this family Brassicaceae, they show a worldwide distribution. Throughout the world, we see the species belonging to the family Brassicaceae, but they show most diversity in the Mediterranean region. In fact, this Mediterranean region is considered to be the center of diversity for Brassicaceae. In addition to this region, we also see diversity of Brassicaceae in the regions like southwestern and Central Asia, and also in Western North America. Many of these species of Brassicaceae, they are very important in ecology of various biological communities. That is why we see the Brassicaceae species in the early successional communities. Now the last part, that is economic importance of the family Brassicaceae. The members of the family Brassicaceae, they are of huge economic importance. Reason being, the family contains many important vegetable crops that we consume in our daily lives. Some of these vegetable crops are the edible plants, like I will mention their English name and their botanical names. Cabbage, its scientific botanical name is Brassica oleracea variety capitata. Cauliflower, its scientific name is Brassica oleracea variety botrytis. Then turnip, its scientific name is Brassica rapa. Radish, scientific name Braphinus stavis. Many members of this Brassicaceae, they are also a source of condiment, such as Chinese mustard, namely Brassica juncea. Black mustard, scientific name Brassica nigra. White mustard, Synapse alba. Horseradish, Aromarica rustanica. In addition to these vegetable crops, this Brassicaceae is important, being the source of seed oil. We know vegetable oil is extracted from the seeds of several species of Brassica, chiefly Brassica napus, our common rapeseed oil. The family contains many species that are commonly used as ornamentals, such as spider flower, its scientific name is Kilium, Dame's violet, Hesperus, wallflower, our common plant that we grow in our parks and gardens, wallflower, its scientific name is Erysimum, or most common one is the candy tuft, scientific name Iberis, or the amazing name like money plant called as Lunaria, sweet lysum called Lubularia, or the rock cress, what we grow in our rockeries, called as Arabis. Many of the species of Brassicaceae, they have also some negative impacts, like they are noxious weeds. We know about garlic mustard, which has invaded many parts in northwestern America. Its scientific name is Alaria. Then Capsula, shepherd's purse. It is common weed of our agricultural lands, roadsides and other disturbed sites. Then peppergrass, Lepidium. It's also quite common and noxious weed everywhere in the world. Some of the species of Brassicaceae, they are a source of natural dye. As we know, the case of blue dye, it was extracted from the leaves of Isotis tinctoria. One more important aspect, economic importance, rather scientific importance of Brassicaceae is that it has given us a plant, a model plant by the name of Arabidopsis thaliana. Its English name is mouse ear cress. It is basically a Eurasian weed, but it is most widely used in the plant molecular biology. As we know the case of Drosophila, fruit fly, which has been used in the cytogenetic studies, it has given many principles, many insights in the genetics. But in the case of plants, this Arabidopsis thaliana is called as sometimes Drosophila of plant kingdom because of its wide usage in plant molecular biology. So, dear students, with this we come to the end of today's topic, that was taxonomy and diversity of Brassicaceae. Hope you have enjoyed today's lecture. See you again with some another topic. Till then, bye bye.